In The Secret Tradition of the Soul, author Patrick Harpur, better known for his earlier work, Daimonic Reality, A Field Guide to the Other World, tells us, loosely, that mythology, the world of gods, daemons, and heroes, is real, but not literally so. These lines mean a lot to me, because they validate, in a way, everything I stand for as a writer. My name is Morgen Crawford. I'm the author of the occult novel Out of Endor and The Ghost Forever, a chapbook. In my fiction, I tend to err on the side of the fantastic. I tend to call myself a fantasist. The words escapism, escapist, and escape. I find them incredibly distasteful when applied to fantasy, because fantasy, in my experience, can teach us how to cope with reality. Here you have the oldest form of literature from which all of our spiritual and religious traditions grew out of, and arguably, our psychology. Psyche, after all, means of the soul. Why am I starting a video about my personal mythology, the mythology I draw from in my fantasy fiction, in this way? Because I want to assure you that I don't believe any of this literally. I don't think the Bible, or Space Brothers, or Atlantis should be taken literally either. To do so would be dangerous. But I do believe they're real. They have their place. They're valid as my creation story. The following story belongs to my unpublished novel, Jhaeah. In this scene, the protagonist, Ethan Barnes, has an out-of-body experience, which allows him to communicate with an entity called the Painter, who relays to Ethan a version of my creation story. For the sake of context, I am going to read the brief opening paragraphs which set the scene, before moving quickly into the dialogue, omitting as much of the exposition as possible. After, he would say that nothing in the lot felt like a dream, though its logic permeated the atmosphere. Ethan sat on a stool in the middle of a wood trailer. The trailer, which was low and small, had been hitched to the back of a truck, and the truck was parked in the center of a dense parking lot. Mountains held the lot on every side, and the mountains were paved in poplar trees. Across from Ethan, a man sat leaning on a round wood table. His bandaged left hand dripped steadily across the table. The blood distracted Ethan from their game of cards, but neither man commented upon the distraction. The man with the bandaged hand was called the Painter. Ethan couldn't remember how he'd known this. The Painter had been talking. His voice revealed the untroubled, conscientious soul of a good and helpful neighbor. Ethan wished instantly that the Painter had been his father. There in the trailer hitched to the truck, the Painter raked with his unmarred fingers his hair, which lay in an uttermost side part. He wore dated-looking glasses with square black frames, and his skin was tanned near to copper. He looked about 50, a young and vital 50, a little taller than Ethan, with slim arms, slim legs, a white shirt tucked over slim hips into carpenter pants. It started with the bird, said the Painter. Jhaeah, like Gaia, he said, with a J and an I sound. And the void, yes, the void, and chaos under it. You know about chaos. It's in all the stories. Well, the bird was like an idea dawning. Suddenly, it was there in the void, overtop the chaos, which was like an ocean, chaos. Everything in it, and I do mean everything, except for the stars. Those were always there. It took Jhaeah lighting things up to see them in the void. Still, the bird couldn't hold the light forever. They called the sun and moon out from chaos, they being Jhaeah. They're, androgynous. 6 udders and a phallus. The Painter continued. But the world was down there, still stuck in chaos, so Jhaeah called harder, but it barely budged. Chaos didn't want to let the world go. It still doesn't want to let things go. It still has friends, chaos, in the present day, stirring shit up. And you'll have to meet them, eventually. But back to the story. Jhaeah called even harder and kept on burning. Burning. They're a phoenix, you know. A blazing bird. Hotter and hotter, calling for the world. Eventually, Jhaeah burned out, and their ashes covered chaos. And chaos lost its grip. Then, the world was born, fully formed. Fully formed? Asked Ethan. Fully formed. Empires, kingdoms, the whole of history. Science and magic, cities full of minotaurs. The crones were in the world, and the phantoms, and everything that stood but isn't human. Humans too, and gods, and demons, and temples, all of our equipment, all of our industries, every book of shadows underneath the sun. It was there. One problem. Chaos, Ethan offered. The painter nodded. Chaos. The world was still a part of chaos. It left its mark, see? And then the shifting. All of the continents, all of the world reflecting chaos. So many nations buried when the shifting started. Floods and earthquakes followed. Every disaster known to creation. The minotaurs trapped in the ruins of their own cities. So many gods forgotten, only to blur themselves with other gods. Every time a shifting settled, the gods with new faces, the people with their new tribes, new nations, and then another shifting. Again and again, the painter said. It took centuries, perhaps 1,000 years. Finally, the mages, the greatest of the mages, and the greatest scientists, they came together. They came together and built a palace in the center of the world. The crown, that's what they called it. Great mass of eldritch beast bones, augmented with machinery. And do you know how that stopped the shifting? They created a face for chaos, an act of sympathetic magic. They made his face and they named him Zolt, and they made it trapped beneath the crown. Now could the planet cease its shifting, for chaos was chained. It stayed that way until the end of the Second Age, because right from the start, Zolt had followers within the crown's hierarchy. One of the alchemists, Ivar Zegan, he believed that Zolt was the original creator, the great initiator, and he believed that Zolt inspired them to create the crown, to create his face, even to trap him beneath the crown. Now Zolt had the face of a clown, the clown beneath the crown. Ivar was banished. Fortunately, he failed to free Zolt, but instead he founded his circus of Zegan, and they with their painted faces and their murder cults, they believed that they could channel chaos by dressing like him, and it worked. It took 1,000 years. They nearly freed him. A lot happened in those days. The pylons, the brides, the 4 bastions. I won't bore you with the details. Finally, to protect the crown, and to prevent chaos from flooding the world again, the emissary, who ruled the crown and ruled the 4 nations, the 4 bastions, called together his assembly. The entire court sacrificed itself, including the emissary, to spirit the crown into the realm of dreams. There it remains, and that is why dreams are a balance of order and chaos, far from perfect, but balanced. If you like this video, please share it with a friend, consider subscribing, and follow me on Instagram at Morgen Crawford Author. You can also join my Patreon, patreon.com/Morgen Crawford. I'm an author, an occultist, a card reader, and a visual artist, and relevant rewards are available for my patrons across the tiers. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in time.